Back to the subject of Trump and his legal challenges. He gave an interview to Univision this week and made some news. News about him and this plan has been circulating in a few different publications. So he was asked whether he has sort of a revenge plan in mind if he is to win a second term. And in classic Trump fashion, he kind of said, yeah, he didn't really run from it. Here's what he said in SOT 6.
You say they've weaponized the Justice Department, they weaponized the FBI. Would you do the same if you're reelected?
Well, if they do this, they've already done it. But if they want to follow through on this, it could certainly happen in reverse. What they've done is they've released the genie out of the box. You understand that? They've done something that nobody thought would happen. They've taken a president who was very popular. I got 75 million votes, much more than that, I believe. They've done indictments in order to win an election. They call it weaponization. And the people aren't going to stand for it. But yeah, they have done something that allows the next party. I mean, if I happen to be president and I see somebody who's doing well and beating me very badly, I say, go down and indict them. Mostly that would be, they would be out of business.
I have to say, I love his honesty. I do. I love how he'll say, yes, I'm going to do that. Obviously, it's in the context of, hello, that is what they're doing to me, and these are the risks of doing this to me. That's very, very clearly what he's trying to say. But what's great about this, obviously them putting out in the press and then him saying it on camera here, is it did exactly what he thought it would do. The Democrats melted down. Completely clueless, unself-aware reaction to this alleged plan, as they're like, what? Who would weaponize the Justice Department against a political foe? It's un-American. This is absolutely wrong. Here's just a sampling of that in SOT 5.
A bunch of fat white pink boys, a bunch of phony populists that are going around talking tough and unfortunately making threats that those of us who love democracy, those of us who actually believe in the American experiment all these years later, have to be worried about.
We try to either call him out on the lies that he puts out there or not cover just frivolous stuff that he says that is lies. But in this case, you have to look.
Guess what? Joe Biden isn't perfect. No candidate is, by the way. But we have to understand what the alternative is here. If elected to a second term, Donald Trump would prosecute anyone he deems an enemy, unleash troops on protesters, and essentially unravel the rule of law as we know it. But sure, Joe Biden is 3 years older and occasionally trips over things.
So what would a second term look like? It would look a lot like Vladimir Putin in Russia. It would look a lot like Viktor Orban in Hungary.
If he's weaponizing government against his opponents, boy, are we in trouble.
He's already said he's going to come after people like General John Kelly.
What about us?
Try it. Go ahead, try it. We have this show every day, okay, Donald?
Oh, jeez. Okay, Joy.
What a fun wish you would be.
Tough honestly, guy.
So I have a kind of a wild opinion on this. My greatest criticism of Trump is he never did the stuff the media accused him of. I think they've created this monster of Trump who's like this incredibly capable guy who crushes his foes and will use whatever levers of power are available to him to do what he needs to get done. And that might not have been the worst thing. And for so long we can complain about hypocrisy of wow, can you imagine if a Republican did this? And at what point is it that we're going to be like, you know what? Let's just give them what they've given us. I think there has to be a point where it's just mutually assured destruction was the way that you dealt with the USSR, with the Soviet Union. Give the Dems, they're essentially the communists now at this point. Give them a taste of their own medicine.
I'll never forget right after he won in 2016, he sort of made up with Hillary Clinton. After all the lock her up talk and everything, then there was no follow through on any of that. What I think is most interesting about all those clips you played, like Jen Psaki and everything, is what you see in this when if Donald Trump is the nominee, you can already see the blueprint for how mainstream media, liberal media, the Democrat Party has to have a therapy session with their voters to get these people back on board. I mean, they're showing you exactly what they're going to do all next year.
Yep.
100%. And that's always been their cheat code in these elections. You can have a party that's ruining the economy, that's diminishing America overseas, that's creating chaos in the Middle East, that's doing like basically everything you would not want them to do, and yet they win in elections. That's the reason, because they're really, really capable. And right now, the Democratic hierarchy is really good at manipulating a Democratic voter into believing that Trump is the worst of the worst. And look at like John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. I mean, this guy couldn't put a sentence together at the end of his campaign, and yet all those polling things that we talked about with the Biden, what he's losing with black voters and young voters and all these other things, same was true of Fetterman on election day. What happened? They voted for him. They voted for him. Same is going to be true again in this exact circumstance because of what you're seeing play out.
But I just can't get over how clueless these Democrats sound and these media figures sound. Like, we've been following the news. Trump is under 4 criminal indictments. He's facing 2 civil fraud trials. Like, who do you think you're kidding? And then you've got like Kristen Welker out there on Meet the Press, like, well, I'll let you listen to it in SOT 7.
He essentially threatened to indict his political enemies if he wins a second term. Does that essentially make the Republican Party take a stance of the Republican Party stands for revenge? What do you think of that messaging?
You know, I'm not going to get involved in rhetoric that's happening during a contested campaign for our presidential nominee. I will say a lot of Republicans, Kirsten, feel like there's a 2-tier system of justice, that Republicans are getting prosecuted or persecuted through prosecution. And they see it with President Trump.
Bob Menendez has been indicted. The New York Democratic Mayor Eric Adams just had his phone searched by the FBI. How can you guys continue to make that argument?
I think when you look at what's happened with the Biden family and what's been uncovered since we've taken the House.
Hunter Biden's been indicted too.
I always think if this were Donald Trump Jr. getting that money, there'd be a big issue.
Good for Ronna McDaniel, by the way. 100% right. Oh, Hunter Biden's been indicted. You've got to be kidding me. Anybody paying 2 minutes of attention to the news understands no one in the Biden Justice Department wanted to do that. They were forced. Their hand was forced by that one federal judge who caught them trying to give him immunity.
Yeah, it would be so nice if we could just stop the dumb fuckery for like 5 seconds.
Yes.
You know, if it would be so great if there was a Democrat out there that was like, you know, that is a really scary proposition to totally prosecute your political enemies, to make an entirely 2-system tiered of justice. What are we doing that could, oh, wait a minute, we might have a problem with that here.
Right.
You know,
no.
Come to think of it,
what do they do?
Create.
They talk about how brilliant Jack Smith is. They defend all the players involved in the prosecution against Trump. They make a hero out of Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, who ran for office. Here she is. Here's just a little, Hannity put this together. It was very good. Look at SOT 8.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses.
Will you sue him for us? Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the He's going to know my name personally.
That man in the White House who can't go a day without threatening our fundamental rights.
Yes, we need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We need to follow his money. We need to find out where he's laundered money. We need to find out whether or not he's engaged in conspiracy. It's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and then going home.
What kind of a party? What kind of a party would use the courts as political revenge, guys?
The Democrat Party. I think this is honestly central to their DNA at this point. Is they are no longer interested in competent leadership or making lives better for Americans. That's very clear when you look at the economic data, and the communications director says, yeah, well, we need 4 more years of this. But if you look across the board, whether it's all these prosecutors that left-wing dark money groups George Soros has funded to essentially unleash just legalizing crime coast to coast across this country, Or you look at how they're trying to pack the courts. They're trying to get rid of Justice Thomas. This is what their party is about, lawlessness. They want to have total control, and they can't do that if voters are standing in their way. They can't get these policies done like, loan forgiveness, which the Supreme Court had to step in and say, wait a minute, you can't just use taxpayer money to pay off kids' student loans. That's not allowed. They had to, any policy that the Democrats want does not pass muster at the ballot. So they have to take power by any means, and they're using the legal system to do it.
Debt. You can go to bed thinking about it and wake up thinking about it still. High interest credit cards and loans make it nearly impossible to pay off your debt. And insane inflation keeps you stuck paycheck to paycheck. The system traps you in debt. Well, donewithdebt.com can be a lifeline. I've talked about my own experience with debt back when I was in law school in the past. It's stressful. Donewithdebt.com has a new strategy to help erase your debt faster and easier than you ever thought possible. And here's what they can do for you. Analyze all the debt options you qualify for, minimize interest rates, cut medical bills, and reduce debt without bankruptcy and without a loan. But you do need to hurry. Some debt solutions are time sensitive. Go to donewithdebt.com. Find out how easy they make it and find out if it's right for you. That's donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.